Hello, everyone. This is Nichol Ellis McGregor, the founder of the Overcomers Approach podcast. This podcast is really for those who are experiencing any type of pitfalls in life or challenges or valleys and mountains. We all experience those. Life will life, and we will continue to face in challenges as we go to our goals, our accomplishments, whatever we have before us. The overarching theme of Overcomers Approach is that we can basically overcome anything that is set before us, whether that's through therapy, whether that's through different body modalities, whether that's through spirituality, whatever your approach is, or maybe it's even a holistic approach. So I'm honored to have Maryanne Nicholls here today. She is she has a practice that she's been in existence for since 2002. She's a registered psychotherapist with CRPO, a certified EMDR practitioner, a certified Gestalt therapist, and a past president of the International Association for the Advancement of Gestalt Therapy. She holds additional certifications in narrative therapy, brain spotting, mindfulness based cognitive therapy, emotion focused therapy, and trauma attachment psychotherapy. Together, she feels that we can overcome challenges, burnout in life for those success driven women who have different responsibilities, different things coming towards them in their lives, different goals that we have in life. But the overarching theme, like I said, is we're able to overcome those. Maryanne, I am so happy to have you here today. Tell me what got you into this field in the first place. Was it a personal experience, a personal story? How did you get here?
And I'm really delighted to be here, Nicole.
Thank you.
Um, well, it is a personal experience. First of all, even though I went into business big time for quite a while in my life, I was trained in psychology. And I kept on getting trained in psychology and in psychotherapy. And eventually, life circumstances got me to reconsider what I was doing.
Mhm.
And I ended up in therapy land, becoming a therapist and a coach for women who, mostly women, but also I have quite a few men who are like me in how they live.
Yes.
Um, it really intrigued me that so many of us go around feeling guilty for who we are.
Yeah.
And people like me are ambitious and we're always energized for something. And somehow we felt guilty about it. And I was included in that. I wanted to do something about it.
Awesome. I love that. I like the fact that you have some personal experience and personal journey of going to therapy yourself, which I have personal experience in as well.
Yeah.
That really when change came for me is when I entered into therapy. Uh,
Well,
and that was a little challenging for my family because and I think things are definitely changing now, but when I entered into therapy years ago, it wasn't a thing that my family was even open to. I think it was more fear of the unknown,
yeah.
not trusting systems, and but I'm so happy that I stepped outside of the box and really tapped into therapy because it really was a change for me for the better, and it really allowed me to model those behaviors and new way of thinking, or maybe even tapping into my strengths that were already there that I just needed someone to be a guide for me to help me with that. So I'm so grateful, and I know that therapy may not be for everybody, but I know that more people are really leaning into that to really get the best out of life and to our fullest potential and changing some patterns that need to be changed in our lives. So I'm grateful that you have that personal experience as well. For women who are leaning into therapy and maybe they're in entrepreneurship or leaders in the spaces that they're in, but also have family responsibilities, burnout is a real thing. And health, once we start facing that burnout, our body will start telling us like you're burning out, it's time to take a pause or do something different. What do you think some of the challenges are for people that are facing burnout and their body is beginning to tell them that things are not working, or maybe they're getting messages at work as well? What do you think people can do to kind of lean into change or be open to therapy? What do you think are one of the first signs that are coming up, and what do you think they need to do?
Well, for most of us, one of the first signs is that we get unhealthy. We
Yeah,
get sick because there's a kind of excitement about doing too much and always being on the move. And so it's really hard to give up. Also, our culture really pays people well and rewards them for being so busy.
yes,
And so those two things combined make it really, really hard to give that up. And one of the things that somebody like me really doesn't want to hear or do is to
yes,
be told that I have to give it up, that I have to relax, that I have to, you know, stop wanting so much or doing so much and become another person who isn't me.
yes.
So I don't think that's the answer. And I certainly don't facilitate that kind of thing. And I haven't done that in my own life.
Mm,
Um, I think the answer is to, yes, definitely take your body messages seriously, because
yeah,
when our body gives up on us or, needs a rest, it really lets us know, and it's really important to listen to that. And
yeah,
one of the things I've noticed is that I don't know about most people, but I was certainly not taught to listen to my body. I was taught to do the exact opposite. And so one of the first things that I work with my clients is to reacquaint them with what their body is telling them.
mm,
Because without our body, what else are we going to do? We can't
yeah,
do anything. We need our health.
that's right.
So our body is so, so important.
Yes. The thing you said that I think is really important, like without our body, what else can we do? Health is really wealth,
Hmm.
and like you said, our society pays us well to do great things and to kind of, go at it and just get to work and do it. And, if we perform well and those outcomes show, we even drive even harder sometimes. And it's really, like you said, really beginning to listen to our body when we become unwell, because without our body, we at some point we're not going to do well personally or professionally, because our
Yeah.
body can give out on us. And I know a number of people and women who are, beginning to face, body issues, whether that's breast cancer, whether that's stress, anxiety, depression. Our body will begin to tell us when we have to really like slow down and take a pause. And it's really okay. Like, it's okay, because we really need to be here at the end of the day. We can always start, pause, and restart again. But I like the fact that we really need to listen to our bodies. And like you said, coming from an environment where we're kind of trained and taught, and I was the same way, like, we don't listen to our bodies. You just
Yeah.
have a headache, just take an aspirin. uh,
Yeah.
yeah, go to sleep. You'll wake up fine. And it's kind of like, we're trained to be workers, and that's okay in one sense, but in another sense, there's so many other parts of ourselves that are so much very, very, very important, and we can't really tap into the fullest purpose of our imagination, our creativity, our fullest potential if we're just got our head down at the plow and just kind of working really hard, because we can always restart and reset at any point. And so I like the fact that you said that, in terms of really beginning to key in and listen to our bodies when we become unwell, and really becoming self-aware that that's okay, that is actually okay. I love that. What do you think, a holistic approach to when we do face burnout? What do you think some methods holistically work for people when they know they're burned out? Like, it's time to, we've accepted it, we acknowledged it, it's here. What do you think is a holistic approach to addressing that?
Well, first of all, I hope that we find out, that the person finds out, or that you find out, or anybody like that
Mhm.
before you burn out.
That's
Because
right.
when you're really and truly burnt out, it's so much harder to get back on that
Yes.
bandwagon or horse or whatever. And, and it's so, again, listen to your body. And that's the first thing.
Yeah.
It's self awareness.
Yes.
And the only way that works is really and truly is self-acceptance.
Yes.
And that's another thing that most of us don't want. We don't really accept ourselves. We don't accept how we look. We don't accept where we are in life. We want to be someplace else. And that future focus means that we aren't present. And if we aren't present, there's no way we can really be in touch with who we are and what we need physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. It
Yes.
can't be,
Yeah.
because it's always about the future. And
Mm-hmm.
so it is self-acceptance. And maybe it is slowing down, maybe not so. I was just talking to somebody the other day, a young man, as a matter of fact,
Mm-hmm.
and he's recently discovered that his attitude towards work as being something that he had to do and get over with so he could do the things he really loved to do was actually wearing him out. That he
Yeah.
was fighting with himself over working or playing. And
Yeah.
it wasn't until he began to let go of that that energy eater of that inner resistance ended up going away, and he ended up having lots of energy. And so
Wow.
it wasn't so much that he was doing too much, he's always busy. It was that he was fighting himself.
Mm. Wow. I really like that you used him as an example. I could think of a number of people that could identify with that.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
right. And, coming to that self acceptance, and
Mhm.
I think that is so very, very important. And like you said, really tapping into that self acceptance. What do you think the first step? I've met people. I was one of those people too, where you don't even know how to even title it. You don't even know what you're feeling at even at that point. Like to even get to the self acceptance piece. What do you think some of those pieces are that can lead people into self acceptance?
Oh my. It usually means they get help.
Yeah.
It's at the point where you're willing to open the door and ask for help from maybe a self-help book, maybe
Yeah.
a friend, maybe a professional. It doesn't matter. It's the willingness to reach out and start to consider other alternatives because, like the old saying goes, it's sometimes attributed to uh, Jung, it's sometimes attributed to Einstein and to other people, which is if you do the same thing over and over again and expect different results, that's called insanity.
That's right.
And so you can't do what you've been doing. You have to do something else.
Mm. Yeah.
That's very, very hard, not to mention scary.
Yes. Thank
Mm.
you. Thank you. That is so helpful. And I think just in layman's terms, some people that like going into that self acceptance means reaching out for help, whether that's picking up a book, that's
Mhm.
reaching out to a mentor, that's reaching out to a coach or a spiritual advisor. But just stepping, the first step is stepping out so that, to help you become aware. And
Yeah.
so that is so very helpful. Thank you. I appreciate that for especially for our listeners that kind of don't know where to start or which direction to go. That first small step is just acknowledging is that I need help and it's okay to reach out and ask for help. Yeah. So I love that.
And you
Yeah.
mentioned that pause, taking a breath. It's okay to, take a moment. It is true because that pause will help you
Yes.
start to shift into a different direction and a different approach.
Yes, for sure. I completely believe that. That is definitely a philosophy that I take, that it's okay to take just a brief pause, just to reset for a moment, just to be in the present and
Mhm.
not to be, because being so future focused for me caused anxiety. Like it just,
Mhm.
I know I needed to set goals, small and short. I'm one of those people that have to break down goals to get to the big part. I'm
Yeah.
sure that has some root issues to that. But if it's like, oh, I got to get my master's, like I did get my master's, but I literally had to break it down and take like night classes first. Then I went and got my associates. Then I got my bachelor's. Then I got my master's.
Mhm.
I knew I was going to get it, but just the thought of me getting the master's overwhelmed me and caused me anxiety.
Mhm.
And so
Yeah.
I know that um, that works for me. And I think we have to individually know what works for us, along with the help of a therapist who can kind of guide us through that, or a coach is really, really, really helpful. I'm really interested in some of the my work that I do in my personal life is professional life is that I'm a community resource navigator. So I work with public safety, which I'm really happy they're doing this in the city that I live in. A lot of our calls are mental health calls.
Mhm.
And we really wanted to redirect those calls not to our police officers because they're there to serve and protect, but in when there's immediate harm or threat, sometimes they will get those mental health calls or behavioral calls, or someone's having a crisis or a meltdown. But we really want to redirect those calls to services that can really help them.
Mhm.
And we don't want to have them entrapped in a system that's ultimately going to be more aggressive, or really not meet the need of that mental health need. And I'm starting to see people experience trauma in different ways in life, whether that's an experience in their life. It could be so much war. It could be, maybe they're from another country and they experience war. They experience trauma in their own families. And so tell me a little bit more about EMDR. I have a friend who did it. She gave like the praises about it. She really, really loved it. And I won't share her story, but she shared it with me. But it was just really, she really began to tap into her gifts and talents and her purpose, and it really accelerated after she went through that. Can you tell me a little bit more about EMDR therapy? Yeah.
EMDR therapy, it fits so well with Gestalt because they're both somatic based.
Okay.
And it is used a lot, and people associate it with helping people with extreme trauma like PTSD. But honestly, it can help anybody who has a pattern
Yeah.
that is unbeneficial to them.
Mhm.
Because usually, when do our patterns, our unbeneficial patterns, kick in? It's when we're stressed
Yes.
and we get triggered.
Mm.
And that means that we're not really present.
Uh,
We are automatically reacting in the same way that we reacted before when we were stressed before for the similar reasons.
Yes.
So EMDR helps to uh, take that pattern. You go all the way back to when it first started, take that pattern and work with it until it no longer triggers you.
Wow.
And
Oh,
then keep doing that until you really aren't triggered by that
yeah.
particular kind of situation again. And that gives you the freedom and the space to do something different.
Yeah.
And so it works so well with what I do as a therapist in other ways and
Mhm.
as a coach that I use it quite frequently.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you. I so appreciate that. And thank you for really breaking that down for me. I know, like I said, I heard it through a friend, and I think so many people could benefit from it,
Mhm.
especially like you said, you go back to that root, the history when the pattern first started. I can
Mhm.
think of a number of people or reasons or situations, whether they're, choosing to select maybe the wrong partner continuously over and over again, and how they react to that situation and
Yeah.
how they respond. Yeah.
Yeah, we go into automatic, and when we're in automatic, we really can't deal with anything else, you
Yeah.
know? We're sort of headed in a particular direction, whether we like it or not.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you. I so appreciate that. It gives more insight, and I'm sure more of our listeners insight as well. And I've seen the benefits through my friend. And so when she told me about it, I didn't have an opportunity to really dive deep into it, but you're giving me some more insight to that. And I'm sure my listeners can tap into that as well. I so appreciate that. Work-life balance. A lot of us are having responsibilities. And some of my peers, we're dealing with aging parents. We're dealing with youth, our children that are maybe going into college or their careers. And so we're kind of being responsible for ourselves, but being supportive to our family members, but also we have professions and careers as well.
Mhm.
And we always have this discussion about balance. You know, how can we balance that, or what does that look like? Do you feel like balance is a real thing, or is it a reality, or is it really just sustainability, trying to support everybody, including ourselves? Do you think that's real, or is it a myth? What are your thoughts on that?
Oh, I don't think it's a myth. I do
Mm.
think it's real. Uh, but sometimes it can end up being um, not so much a myth, but maybe the wrong thing to focus on.
Yeah,
If you have aging parents and they're living at your house, or if you have a child with special requirements, that can, or or if your partner has Alzheimer's or something,
yes,
that can just sap your strength
yeah,
because, first of all, you care about those people and you want to be with them as much as possible. Secondly, you probably feel guilty every time you're not with them.
yes,
That's a big one for parents.
for sure.
And that means that there's a resistance. I was talking about the resistance and the inner resistance, and
Yes,
that has to go. If you're an entrepreneur, then there's also that. There's always there's friends who resent the fact that you can't be with them all the time and put a lot of pressure on you to uh, be with them. And so there's that feeling of guilt and there's that tug of war inside you.
yes,
I've certainly felt it. And a lot of the people I work with have definitely felt it.
yes.
And that is what needs to be resolved. It's the inner tug of war that needs to be resolved so that
Mm,
you can release that energy and start being able to be present enough to focus on what's the priority for now. You
yes.
have to change your plans and start working on it and relaxing into it instead of trying to force something.
Yes, I love that. Thank you. That is so, that tug of war and that inner resistance and having to release some things, and what's the priority for now? Because those priorities could change.
Yeah.
So, and I can definitely identify with that in my own family as well. And so, thank you for that. I greatly appreciate it. Another thing that has really come up in conversations, personally, professionally, is boundaries. And yes, and that can be in so many that can go in so many different directions. But why do you is having those boundaries, I know, are really important, but for people who struggle with boundaries, maybe they came from a family that didn't really have them,
Mhm.
or I've been in professional spaces and places where boundaries can get grayed sometimes, and we can get unhealthy when we do not have them. What do you think? Where can people tap into professionally and personally, how to set boundaries and why are they important? Yeah.
Boundaries. Um, so people who work too much often don't have very good boundaries.
Yeah.
Uh, I can attest to that. They take on other people's responsibilities without even knowing it. And then, of course, when people get used to it, they expect you to take on their responsibilities.
Yeah.
And that often leads to burnout because it becomes a kind of impossible, untenable situation. You've just got too much on your plate. You can't even get to the things you want to do because you're too busy doing the things for others that
Yeah.
they want you to do. And
Yeah.
so boundaries can be loose boundaries, porous boundaries, rigid boundaries, which are kind of the other side of the same coin, um, are an indicator that you're not taking care of yourself. You're
Yeah.
taking care of other people instead of yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And it isn't, the answer is not to not do anything for anybody else. The answer is to get interested and curious about what's really going on that lets you cross your own bottom lines over and over and over again and think that's okay
Yeah.
because it isn't okay.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you for just confirming that. Like you said, when we don't have them, and like you said, it can go from not having boundaries to having rigid boundaries. It goes one extreme to the other.
Mhm.
Just really becoming aware of when we're not in our most functional, healthiest places, and just
Mhm.
if we need support on what that looks like, maybe reaching out to a therapist, reaching out to a coach to change those patterns. We're winding down to the last few minutes of the podcast, and I do, have another question. Another thing that's come up is enablement, whether that's with our adult children
Oh.
or you're working with a client, where you want to really empower people and not do for them. What do you think? What can help people who struggle? I know there's a real fear with parents if they have adult children who maybe struggle in some areas and they want to do. Maybe that's paying, doing too much versus allowing their child to kind of figure things out. And that's really based out of fear. I get it. I experienced that and I needed therapy to help me work through that. I
Yeah.
absolutely have. And there was some point where I had to let go and trust the process. Um, what advice would you give parents of children? Maybe they're minors or maybe they're adults, where they're more enabling them versus really empowering them to kind of figure out life. What does that look like? Yeah.
Uh, hmm.
Yeah.
You've heard of the codependent triangle.
Yes.
And that's what you're talking about, where there's always three rules, whether there's two people or three people or more than that,
Yeah.
is the rescuer,
Yeah.
the victim, and the perpetrator.
Yeah.
And those three roles tend to rotate and morph and change, so that everybody gets a chance to be something. Like they're either the rescuer or the victim or the perpetrator.
Yeah.
And it never feels good for
No.
anybody. And
Mm-mm.
yet, especially in families, most of us probably grew up
Yeah.
learning about that kind of unhealthy way of being with each other.
Yeah.
Um, and so uh, it is about breaking that pattern. And all it takes is one, and there's going to be a lot of resistance from the other people because everybody has bought into it.
Right.
It's about breaking that pattern. And if you're usually the rescuer, then it's about becoming the supporter. Uh,
Yes.
and even saying it sounds so much better and healthier.
It
And,
does.
it's hard. It's actually hard to do. If you're the perpetrator, you're probably the one trying to shove good information down somebody else's throat.
Yeah.
And it's again to sit back and not get drawn into being that part of
Yeah.
the unhealthy dynamic. And if you're the victim, then it's time to say to yourself, I don't want to be a victim anymore. If I'm in this victim role, it's because I somehow allowed it to happen.
Yeah.
So how can I get out of being the victim and being responsible for how I got in here?
Yes. Yes. Thank you. That is very, very helpful and gives some additional insight. My final question is, I'm meeting so many people, women who are really, you know, either they're attaining more education than some of their family members have, or they're moving into an economic space that they haven't been in before. But
Hmm.
they're still really learning. They're still learning and figuring this out because they're like the first person in their family to attain degrees or the first person to maybe make six figures. And so at that same time, they still have family members that are still maybe haven't, and that's okay. They don't have to attain a degree. Doesn't necessarily mean success. Making it's whatever your life's purpose is for you. But I think some people can become so driven because we are rewarded to be like winners and leaders, but finding that balance in their lives so that they can attain the success they want at the same time operating and functioning in a family um, that maybe struggles with that a bit. And we still want to be leaders. We still want to become to our fullest purpose, but that family balance, that career balance, what do you think women could do to kind of satisfy their own intrinsic drive and value, but balancing family as well?
Now, do you mean, I'm a little unclear, do you mean in terms of hurt feelings
Yeah.
or feeling separated from on both sides,
Yes. I think it causes a separation and a divide.
and
Yeah.
judgment.
Yeah. And judgment for sure. Yes.
Judgments at each other instead of, yeah, and feeling hurt, feeling jealous, maybe
Yes.
feeling all kinds of things, and
Yes.
it
You
it
know that on the
yeah,
head. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, it really uh, helps to be empathetic
Yes.
and to not lose contact. Like,
That's
be
right.
open-hearted. Don't go into those walls,
Yeah.
because as soon as you do that, you might as well be in a boxing ring.
I agree.
Mm,
Yes. Yes. Yeah. And I definitely agree. Like what you said, just being empathetic and understanding, and having that compassion, and just really looking at the strengths within the family, I think is just really,
mm,
really important.
yeah,
This is a conversation that me and a lot of my colleagues have, and they kind of struggle with that, and I've struggled
right,
with it too. But
yeah,
I think for me, once I just let go and looked at the strengths within my family, like this is where I come from. I wouldn't want to come from anything else.
mhm,
This is the reason that I'm the woman that I am here today. This
yeah,
is why I have an empathetic lens, because I did experience a lot of trauma within my family. I wouldn't want to have come from another family, because I can hear somebody's lived experience and I can really identify with it, not from a place of judgment.
yeah,
Because I know I'm more so looking at it from not so why are they that way, but what happened, and where can we have like some shared agreements and shared conversation and be courageous about it and curious.
mhm.
Yeah. Yeah. My last question is, as you do this work, what gives you hope? Yeah, the world is kind of, there's a lot going on right now. So, what gives you hope in the midst of everything that's going on?
Oh, good question, and we cannot live without hope.
Yeah.
It truly, that is what keeps us going, that's what keeps our spirits alive, that's what gives us energy.
Hmm.
That's the whole
Yes.
that's the whole thing to aim for, is something that gives us hope.
That's right.
Um, Viktor Frankl, uh, you probably know about him. He
Hmm.
survived Auschwitz. He was a psychiatrist. He became a leader in psychiatry, really focusing on people who had OCD.
Yes.
He has written a lot about how important hope is,
Yes.
having meaning and purpose in your life is.
Mhm.
And, trying to find it, like finding it in some way, shape, or form. And
Yes.
I'm sure that so many people are like me, and that's what gets me up, is a hopefulness that today will be wonderful, like something
Right.
about it will be wonderful.
Yes.
I wish I could put it in clearer terms. It is an attitude. It
Yes.
is an attitude and approach towards our own life. It is
Yes.
something that we've got out there. It's something that we've got in here. And like he said, that is the one thing that nobody can ever take from you.
That's right. Oh, I
Mhm.
love that. I love that, that hope is what what we have, and
Yeah.
we all have it. It's an attitude. It's the
Mhm.
attitude of gratitude that something wonderful will happen
Mhm.
day, whatever that may look like, whatever that it's a sunset, I don't know. It's a promotion, it could be so many different things, but
Yeah.
we have hope.
Mhm.
And that is key. And so thank you so very much for reminding myself and our listeners of that,
Mhm.
that there's hope every day that we wake up and take a breath. Uh, so I definitely appreciate it. Well, Mary Ann, this has been a wonderful conversation. I want to thank you for this time. I also want to give you an opportunity to leave your website. I know that you have a blog and more information. You have coaching and therapy sessions that are offered, and you have that information on your website. But I want to give you an opportunity to leave that information. I will also leave it in the narrative when I complete the podcast and I put it out in a week or two. I'll have that information, but I just want you to be able to. What is your web information for people to get in touch with you for that information?
My website is The Joy of Living. I know that that's a popular one, but it's spoken to
Yes.
a particular spirit. So it's thejoyofliving.co.
Okay.
Um, and I have my blogs there. I have access to my video blogs as well. And the information is there on what I have to offer.
Thank you. The joy of living. Uh,
Yeah.
just love it. It resonates with me completely. Yes. Yes. And so I love that. And just like hope, no one could take that from you. And our intrinsic joy, no one could take that from us either. So I really, really appreciate that. And I love it. And so with that, I make sure I'll put that in the narrative. Maryanne, it has been a pleasure. And I want to thank you for this time today.
Oh, you're so welcome. It was so nice being with you for a while, Nicole.
Thank you.
Mhm.